Welcome back to another session of the Hopry. My name is Mark Starr, and today I'm going to share one of my other favorite Imperial IPAs with you. Now, today's going to be a little bit different than most of my reviews. I usually start my sessions off with a beer that hasn't been opened. But last year when I tried Dreadnaught for the first time, one of the things that I remember about the beer was that it didn't make the greatest impression upon me, the very first time I poured it. As I got through the bottle, maybe about halfway through, it really started to open up on me. The flavor started to be a lot more pronounced. I started to get a lot more of the hoppy characteristics. So, I've had this one open for a little while now. I've kind of been slowly drinking it, just waiting for it to get to the right temperature before I share my thoughts with you. But I think really, this is one of those beers, believe it or not, that can be quite tricky. And in fact, I think a lot of Three Floyds beers are like that, where the first impressions aren't always the greatest, but by the time you're about halfway through them, and it's not because you've had a lot of beer to drink and that your judgment is impaired, it's just that the beers have time to really kind of blossom, if you will. It happened to me when I tried their Behemoth barley wine as well. So anyway, recently I was able to get a couple bottles of this, which is their Three Floyds Dreadnaught. It's an Imperial IPA. It clocks in right at about 9.5%. And I wanted to share this one with you because it's one of my favorites that I've had. It's up there with the Pliny the Elders and Youngers, the Hop Slams, the Hop Stupids. It kind of fits in that category for me. So I wanted to, really kind of, show it in its best light, and really you need these to be at the right temperature. Now, I always talk about Fridge the Hops. That's my campaign. In fact, I'll put the little address here so you can go on my website and look at that. But I got these in the mail yesterday and immediately put them in the fridge, and I wanted to share it with you as soon as I can because my philosophy with hoppy beers is that today is the best they're going to taste, and so that's just a fact. But anyway, having said that, and I did want to ask one question too. Make sure you leave me a comment on my website. You can leave me a comment on YouTube, but I'd really prefer it if you would go to my website. Let me know if you are going to Three Floyds Dark Lord Day this year. I think it's April 24th. If I see you out there and you come up, say hello to me, and maybe I recognize you, I'd love to have a beer with you and just kind of hang out and do a little bit of hanging out. But anyway, let's talk about the color. I talk a lot lately about the color of IPAs and Imperial IPAs and how they really range from being sort of a light golden straw color all the way to a burnt caramel orange. This one sits probably closer to the burnt caramel orange end of the spectrum than say your Pliny's or Hop Stupids. It's pretty hazy as well, kind of murky. I guess murky is the word that I would go with. You can somewhat see through it around the edges. It's more of a lighter color. Once you get to the middle, you can't really see through it at all. The head color on it, though, it's traditional. It's off-white, maybe that eggshell color. The bubbles on it are, fairly tight. I guess in terms of, head, not too bad looking. I can already see that I'm getting a little bit of lacing on the glass, and that's, from a little bit that I had earlier. But let's go ahead and get in there and talk about the nose. I think we're sitting at about the right temperature now, which is for me about 46 to 48 degrees. I don't like it to be too warm, but I don't want it to be refrigerator cold as well. So I'm getting a lot of the astringent hops out of this one. In the past, you've probably heard me talk about how hops can kind of taste, or not really smell like caramelized onions, but they remind me of the astringency that you get from caramelized onions, or even maybe cooked green cabbage. Now, I'm not saying this smells like either one of those, so don't get me wrong. I'm getting a lot of that out of the nose. There's a little bit of citrus, and on the citrus end of the spectrum, I'm going to go closer to like orange peel, maybe just a touch of grapefruit. And if I say grapefruit, I guess I'm talking about more of the bitterness from the grapefruit more than I am just the aroma of grapefruit. Not getting a whole lot of mango and peach like you might get out of something like the Hop Slam. But there's definitely a nice amount of hops going on in here, and it's kind of hard to, to tell exactly what kind of hops that they use. But so anyway, right at the end, and I'm not sure how many of you have done this. I highly recommend it if you haven't. In your city, find the local beer shop, and I don't mean like a place you go to buy beer, but a place who actually sells brewing equipment, a place you can buy hops, and maybe buy 2 or 3 different types of hops. And normally you're going to find them in little pellets. That's traditionally how they sell them. But they sell them in little, vacuum sealed bags. Buy a few different kinds. Buy some, Simcoe hops. Buy some, whatever you want. Do some research. Find the different kinds of hops that sound interesting to you and try them. When you go home and you peel open those bags and you go in to smell the hops, there's almost a chemical-like smell that you get from that, and I get that in this beer, which tells me that they've probably used a really good amount of pellets in this beer, and that would account for a lot of the haziness on it as well. But let's take another sip. So this one really tastes almost exactly like it smells, which is very good. I get that sort of astringency from the hops. I get the pure pellet flavor, that I talked about with the nose. There's a good amount of bitterness. The balance is really nice. This one actually, of all of the greats out there, reminds me the most of the Hop Stupid. So if you want to know what this one tastes like, if you go out and get a Hop Stupid, this is actually just a little bit beefier than the Hop Stupid, meaning it's a little bit higher in alcohol. There's a little bit more, bitterness from the hops. It's not a lot more fragrant, but it's a touch more fragrant than the Hop Stupid. Now, like I said earlier, this one gets a lot better as it sits out. If you buy this beer, I'm just going to warn you ahead of time, make sure you pull it out of the refrigerator at least 20 minutes before you're going to drink it. Now, you don't have to pop the cap on it right away, but just bring it out and let it kind of, soften up, if you will. The longer you leave these in the refrigerator and the colder they get, the more those flavors begin to get masked. And you don't want to mask, all of the flavors, but you don't want this to get too warm either. But so anyway, I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit, and you don't need to hear that. I'll just tell you this is a really good beer. If I had to score it, it's not as great as the Hop Slam. It's not as great as Pliny the Younger. I'd say I even, enjoy the Pliny the Elder more than this one as well. I'm going to have to go probably 95, 96 on this one. I don't think the color on it is insane. If it was a really nice looking beer and maybe had a little bit higher head retention, I'd probably go 96, 97. But I think I'm probably going to have to stick with about a 95 on this beer. It's really good. Hope you can get your hands on some. It's always a treat to get your hands on 3 Floyds beers, and that's all there is to it. But well, anyway, guys, thanks for coming back. My name is Mark Starr. Remember, fridge the hops. Cheers.